Welcome back to Wikilert.
Today, the windswept shores of Normandy, already steeped in history's echoes, have been touched by a fresh wave of sorrow that has silenced the roar of engines and left a community of vintage car enthusiasts heartbroken. The news broke yesterday, September 21st, 2025, during the 5th edition of the Normandy Beach Race in Ouistreham, Calvados, where a tragic accident claimed the life of 54-year-old event organizer David Harry, turning what should have been a celebration of mechanical nostalgia into a day of profound grief, as a hot rod vehicle flipped multiple times on the sandy track during a demonstration run. The entire event, drawing some 15,000 to 30,000 attendees, was halted, the beach evacuated, and the atmosphere of 1940s revival shattered. It's the kind of unimaginable turn that reminds us how fragile joy can be, especially amid the thrill of revving relics and as investigations unfold with the local gendarmerie. Our hearts go out to David's family, his fellow organizers, and the tight-knit world of classic vehicle lovers who've lost a driving force in more ways than one. Let's take a gentle step back to honor the event's spirit, David's role in it, and the passion that brought so many to Sword Beach's sands. The Normandy Beach Race isn't just any gathering, it's a living tribute to the golden age of motorsport, held annually on the historic Sword Beach in Ouistreham, where D-Day's legacy lingers in the tide. Inspired by America's race of gentlemen, this French gem, launched in 2021, revives the vibe of 1940s and 1950s beach drags, 200-meter standing start sprints pitting pre-1947 American and European cars and motorcycles against each other on the firm sand, their engines rumbling like thunder from a bygone era. Picture it, Friday's technical inspections at Ouistreham Town Hall Square, where gleaming hot rods and vintage bikes line up like old soldiers. Saturday's Riva Bella car show, with 250 pre-1965 vehicles parading along the seafront, and Sunday's main drags, where dueling machines launch from a standstill, kicking up sand in a spectacle that's equal parts history lesson and heart-pounding show. Over 3 days, it draws international crowds, Brits, Americans, locals, who camp out, swap stories around beach village food stalls, and cheer as engines modified just enough to hit 60 kilometers per hour roar to life. It's free, family-friendly, and fiercely authentic, a nod to the mechanical meats of yesteryear without the gloss of modern circuits. This year's edition, from September 19th to 21, was shaping up to be the biggest yet, with unique entries like the Golgoth 1A. Wild contraption built from a Mirage fighter jet fuel tank on wheels until tragedy struck. Around 11 a.m. on Sunday, David Harry was the beating heart of it all, a 54-year-old passionate organizer whose vision helped birth the event and whose energy kept it alive through 4 successful years. Hailing from the Calvados region, David wasn't just behind the scenes, he was often right there on the track, embodying the race's DIY spirit as a participant and cheerleader. Friends describe him as the guy who'd tinker late into the night on a finicky carburetor, then crack a joke at the driver's briefing to ease pre-run nerves. His love for vintage iron ran deep, rooted in a lifelong fascination with the roaring 20s and 30s, machines that symbolized freedom and ingenuity. As co-founder with a trio of fellow enthusiasts inspired by their U.S. trips, David poured his weekends into logistics, securing beach permits, wrangling sponsors, and ensuring safety protocols that had kept prior editions incident-free, save for minor tumbles like a motorcyclist's fall. On Saturday, he wasn't chasing fame. It was the shared spark, the roar of a flathead V8 on sand, the camaraderie of grease-stained hands that drove him. In interviews leading up to the event, he'd beam about the magic of reliving history, always crediting the volunteers and families who made it a weekend affair. Tragically, it was during one of those demo runs, a head-to-head sprint, that the hot rod he was passenger in lost control, flipping 3 times across the track. Despite immediate aid from some 20 firefighters and medics, David succumbed at the scene, his passion silenced mid-rev. The crash itself was a cruel twist in a day meant for delight. Around 11 a.m., with the beach buzzing and the tide low for optimal traction, two vehicles lined up for a standard 200-meter duel, classic American iron, engines tuned but not supercharged, safety crews at the ready. Eyewitnesses describe a sudden oversteer on the sand, perhaps from a gust or a slight misjudgment, sending the hot rod into violent rolls that scattered parts across the finish line. The driver survived with injuries, but David, thrown from the impact, couldn't be saved despite frantic CPR. The gendarmerie swiftly evacuated the site, herding thousands from the beach village and viewing areas as helicopters whirred overhead. No other spectators were hurt, but the shock rippled. Minor incidents like Saturday's bike spill had been shrugged off, but this? It halted everything, a somber end to an event that had already drawn 30,000 over the weekend. Organizers, reeling, issued a statement thanking supporters and vowing a review, while local officials praised the quick response that prevented wider harm. It's a stark reminder of vintage racing's risks. These aren't modern safety cells, they're raw history on wheels, where passion meets peril on every launch. Beyond the track, David was the glue for his circle, a devoted family man whose home garage doubled as a workshop for his kids, teaching them to wrench on engines as life lessons in persistence. Married with children who often joined the event's setup, he'd balance the chaos with quiet family time, like post-race picnics on the dunes. Financially, he lived modestly, his net worth tied more to the joy of the build than big bucks, perhaps in the low five figures from sponsorships and ticketless entry fees, funneled back into the race's growth. He wasn't in it for profit, it was legacy, a way to keep the Northeast France car scene alive and kicking. There are so many little stories that capture David's spark, the ones that make this loss feel like a stalled engine mid-race. Fellow organizers recall how he'd arrive at dawn with fresh croissants for the crew, turning setup into a feast, or that time in 2023 when a storm threatened the drags. He rallied everyone to tarp the bikes, then led an impromptu sing-along to keep spirits high. Even yesterday, before the run, he was spotted hyping a young entrant, adjusting a fender with grease up to his elbows, his laugh cutting through the wind. Fans on social media are sharing photos today, one viral clip of a flawless launch from last year, captioned, "For David, rev it up in heaven," while the event site now bears a black ribbon, a digital eulogy to the man who made the beach thunder. As the tide pulls back from Sword Beach and the investigation wraps, this tragedy casts a long shadow over a passion that David helped ignite. To his wife, his children, his co-organizers like the founding trio, and the vintage faithful who've lost their ringleader, our thoughts are with you in this heavy quiet. May the sands hold his stories forever. The Normandy Beach Race may pause, but David's drive will echo in every burnout to come. If this tale of roaring history and sudden silence has you reminiscing about the machines that move us, give this video a like and subscribe for more stories from the starting line of life. It keeps the engines turning. Thanks for being here. Drive safe out there.